All right, so I'm with JJ here at ASUS at CES 2026, and there's tons of new stuff in typical ASUS fashion, and JJ is going to take us through some of the new things they've come out with. So we're in the hardware component side. Is there anything that stands out or something you're excited to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you guys for joining us here for CES 2026, and I think we've got some really cool stuff. So I think that the first one that I actually want to show off is going to be something actually on the motherboard side. We're known for doing a lot of really cool stuff in terms of innovative kind of connections and simplifying build experiences. Let's actually go ahead and take a look a little bit over here.
Sweet.
So the first thing that we really want to look at is if we take a look here at this board, we're going to see these set of pins on this motherboard. Yeah. Now, most of you, if you've ever built your own system, of course, you're familiar with the motherboard, and you're probably familiar with the pain point that might exist when you actually go about installing something like this, an all-in-one cooler.
Yeah.
Normally, with the latest generation of coolers, there's actually a lot of cables that you have. You usually have a USB cable that will go to like the port on the motherboard. There's usually a fan cable. There's an ARGB cable. There might even be also a separate pump cable. There's a lot that the user has to kind of manage and route and kind of deal with. So we said, well, how can we make it easier? We made it a lot easier. We eliminated every single cable. So these set of pins actually will provide power, the pump, the monitoring, the fan control, and the ARGB all through those set of pins. So all the user will do is, I'm going to remove this. This is our new Strix LC4 series cooler.
Oh, no way.
And the pump essentially is going to be auto-guided to align with the bracket. Once I put the bracket in place, when I lower this actually down, the cold plate has essentially a set of pins that are offset on the side, and those will automatically make contact with those set of pins, and you're going to be good to go. Once the user then screws the bracket in place, I'm just going to go back in and put in my display, and I'm done.
Sweet. And so, that's the AIO-Q technology?
Yep, correct. It's our AIO-Q connector. That is going to be exclusive to ASUS motherboards. It's exclusive to our latest generation of ROG motherboards.
Okay.
It is not gate kept to like only the highest end model. So while I'm showing it here on the Dark Hero and our Glacial, which are like our flagship motherboards, we have it on the Dash E, and we also even have it on our mid-range Dash A model. So we will be offering it on more than just one model. And we're excited about continuing this forward, just be able to make things faster, simpler, and easier for building.
Do you think that will kind of lead to a trickle-down approach later? You know, let's say a year from now, the technology's been out, people are starting to adopt it. Do you think that you'll see it on the TUF series one day?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you take a look at a lot of our designs, they always kind of follow that type of approach. A great example is like our quick release technology for graphics cards.
True.
First started off on a higher end series of motherboards, and now we have that all the way down on like B850 based models.
Awesome.
The integrated IO shield, when we first released that was on one very high end Rampage Black Edition model, and now every single motherboard in our lineup pretty much always has an integrated IO shield.
Yeah.
So that's always our approach, is to try to refine and improve, and then keep spreading that simplicity out to more and more products.
Awesome.
Yep. So one other cool thing that I want to note that you won't visually see, it's a little bit hard, but I think you guys are going to appreciate from a build perspective, is, built into the motherboard, there's actually a little ROM chip that's on here, and that handles the BIOS. And one of the cool things we've done is we made that BIOS twice as big. It's a 64 megabyte chip now, and that will actually give us a couple of big benefits. One is we build in the UEFI, and it's now actually high resolution, it's HD, but also has a brand new graphical layout, and we built in the Wi-Fi driver into the motherboard.
Nice.
So when you actually finish building your system, you don't have to kind of go to another computer to download the Wi-Fi driver, bring the flash drive over. It's just, again, we streamline the experience, make it faster, simpler, and easier for you. All of the new X870 and a lot of the B850 will all have 3 USB 2 headers on them, which is really nice for a lot of the guys that do like an AIO, ARGB, pumps, or external devices. That's now going to also be requisite. And all of the X870 models, except for the TUF Gaming, will have dual quick latching designs for the primary and secondary M.2 SSDs. So examples right here, if I remove that one, it's quick access, but also even the secondary, it's also quick access. So it just makes that simple. And of course, all of these slots are all quick access, where I just pop it in, there's no standoff, there's no screw. I just click it into place, and then from there, I just mount that back in. Same thing, this one, I just mount it back in. And we have tons of this. So you have like quick antenna, quick design, quick M.2, quick release, graphics cards. So there's a lot of stuff. Same reason why we call it quick AIO, is everything's about just trying to make it faster, simpler, and easier.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than when you have your whole build done and you finally go to add that second NVMe and the little screw just vanishes under the motherboard. You just finished everything.
Or it drops inside your chassis somewhere and you're trying to find the standoff for the screw. Yeah,
I remember trying to shake like a 50-pound computer just to try to see where the screw went, because I'm like, there's no way I can take apart this whole thing again.
Yeah.
So, no, that's awesome.
So one little last update here on the core component side is I just want to talk a little bit about fans. Most of the time, you guys won't generally think about fans coming from ASUS, but we do actually have a great lineup of fans. But these are our first daisy chain magnetic-based designs. So of course, with daisy chain, it just means you have a far simpler experience.
Right.
They just click together. We have a special patented locking mechanism, which keeps them nice, tight, and rigid. We will actually be offering a 14-channel controller, which is the best in the industry, which means one controller can be used for every single fan in the chassis. Where in some other builds, more limited controllers might mean that you might have to use 1, 2, or maybe even 3 controllers to manage so many fans. Another really cool benefit is that we're the only vendor right now for an ARGB fan that will use liquid crystal polymer for the fan blades. So that's something you normally only see in the non-ARGB premium fan category. So companies like Noctua or Fantex, Thermaltake have used liquid crystal polymer to have an ultra-rigid fan blade to give you better static pressure and airflow. So this kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You're going to have outstanding kind of non-ARGB performance, but in an ARGB fan that can daisy chain. And then the last point is that I love, we have this 3-zone lighting design. So 1, 2, and 3. And you're going to be able to go crazy with how you can customize that in terms of having like sequentials or offsets or 1 zone or 2 zones or 3 zones and being able to do a lot of really cool controls.
So in this current setup, is the center zone off because you have diffusion kind of blending?
No, this is actually on. We've added in a little bit, right? So you actually have that that red actually illumination happening on the center, on the inside as well.
Okay, I gotcha.
But you'll be able to go in. So if you want to make this permanently just red and then make these two just white, you can do that. Now. So adding this design is actually quite unique because most fans on the market are actually going to look closer to maybe like a fan that you'll see here on one of these AIOs, where the entire hub is actually illuminated and then the fan blades are transparent. But what we decided to do is prioritize the fan performance by making the blade essentially not RGB and then focusing on making the inner ring RGB and then the fan frame the actual RGB. So it's kind of like a rethinking of the approach of how you want to approach the illumination, but also while focusing on the performance of the fan.
Right. And even the rubber mounts or the rubber gaskets, if you will, to chassis mount it, it provides that really nice clean line. That's what stood out when we came over. I'm like, you don't usually see a very sharp
line. Exactly.
So if you have a very specific color theme in mind, I typically with my channel, I'll do like the pink and blue hue. So being able to clearly separate the two as opposed to having that spillover.
It creates a really cool kind of structured design that you can have in terms of the overall lighting feel. Yeah, so overall, that's going to be a pretty nice option. And of course, you do see this. This is in our new ProNex chassis. So if you want something big, bold, bright, dynamic, this will be our new flagship chassis. It has curved tempered glass. It has 6 USB ports, including dual 60-watt capable ports, which of course does complement our motherboards, the Glacial, the Dark Hero, and even our Dash E model. And as well as even our Dash A model, right, which is a mid-range, they all have that same supporting USB spec. But that's pretty rare because most chassis, maybe you get like 2 ports or maybe 3 ports,
1 type thing.
Right? But to have 6 ports and even have these 6 ports be able to provide 60 watts of power from the motherboard is pretty crazy.
And can you configure the motherboard to do the always-on power at night? So you want to charge a headset, you want to charge a...
You can go into the UEFI and you can actually set it to be able to essentially an always-on power option, right? So a lot of options that are available to you. And that's one last note that you guys might appreciate for all of our new generation motherboards. We're also going to be releasing a new motherboard management utility called ASUS Motherboard Manager. It's not a replacement to Armory Crate, but if you don't want to have a full comprehensive Armory Crate software suite, and you just want motherboard monitoring and fan controls, you'll be able to actually leverage our Motherboard Manager utility. So it'll pretty much be ASUS Motherboard Manager, Armory Crate, Driver Hub, which is your one-stop shop for easy driver downloads, and then ASUS AI Advisor, which allows you to do questions and inquiries about your hardware, and even do low-level performance tuning through an easy prompt system.
So is the goal, like Armory Crate is still kind of the all-encompassing package for those who want to embrace it. But if you don't, you're starting to separate every category into its own modular software stack?
To some degree, right? We still think that for the vast majority of users, the integrated experience is what they're going to want to leverage. And especially, I think, with the latest version of AC, it's decoupled to where you can modularly remove parts that you want. It's lightweight and it's responsive. So I think it does a really great job in that regard. But we are always listening to our users. If the users are telling us, hey, I want more options, in the same way that our peripheral team, we enabled recently like a web driver model, right? So if they don't even want Armory Crate Gear, which was just for peripherals versus the full Armory Crate straight,
you can still
we have that. And then we even still have hardware level control. So technically on some peripherals, it's 4 levels of what's the right choice.
Right.
Pure
No, that's
hardware,
huge.
a WebDriver, a full software suite, or maybe like a lightweight software suite
Yeah.
that only does peripherals.
Just so you can appease anyone who has their own opinion on what the best solution is.
Exactly. It's a lot of work because it requires a
Yeah.
lot of development, but we're just trying to give as much choice to the user to be able to approach it how they want. From here, I think maybe let's take a look at ProArt.
Yeah, we'll work our way down. And then real quick on this, so on the Armory crate, I noticed, because you kind of back support older hardware stacks too.
Correct. We always do that. So I do believe that we're the only vendor that actually have extensively gone to a wide degree to support older models consistently with Armory Crate. I mean, Armory Crate has gone back all the way even to, I think, like B450 based motherboards. Right. So really much older, and even some, I think, X299 based motherboards. So we have spent a lot of work. I think actively right now, Armory Crate has over 35 million active users.
That's wild.
Across all of our ecosystem of peripherals, laptops, handhelds, motherboards, and all these different types of products. So it is actually a very big undertaking for us to consistently be able to offer such extensive support on so many products. But I think we've done a really solid job at keep trying to look at where users want improvement. Like I said, modularity, I think, was the last big update with AC6, where we said, hey, if you don't want these functions, just uninstall them, and you just want RGB fan control and monitoring, you can do that, right?
Yeah, I found out by accident because I have an older G14 with a RTX 3050 in it. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to bring that just to fire it up for ARC Raiders if we have time later, you know, at the hotel.
Yeah.
And when I was doing all my updates before I leaving, I already saw the Armory Crate was updated. It was totally different than the last time I used it. I'm like, man, it works so much better now. And that's a 3-year-old laptop, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Definitely.
Yeah,
Very cool.
let's check out the ProArt stuff.
Yep.
All right, so we made it over to the ProArt section, and it's busy here. This is good. This thing caught my eye because not everyone wants flashy ARGB. They want something more subtle, but they still want like the professional level performance, or maybe they want a mix of gaming and the content creation.
Like a hybrid type of user. I mean, with ProArt, of course, our focus is generally always more on people that do audio, videography, 3D animation, professional workflows. But we also definitely do have kind of just core gamers that just love the refined, minimal design aesthetic, that no RGB approach, just focused on, again, quality, performance, and functionality. So we will have a new ProArt B850 model. I love this guy because there's a couple of things that are really unique about it. It actually has dual PCI Express Gen 5 slots. That's pretty much a rarity in the industry. Also, even for something like a B850 based product. Now, the reason why we did that, and you might not be aware, but many of our graphics cards, like our Prime series, our Dual series, and our ProArt series, they're all 2.5 slot. Now, professional creators can actually benefit from multiple GPUs if you're using a program like 3D Studio Max or Blender, Maya, things like that. You can actually run dual GPUs, which is the reason why we do that type of design. This board also has dual 5 gigabit networking built on board. And we also introduced Wi-Fi 7, where in the prior generation, it did not have Wi-Fi on board. But I think for sure, the star of the show is this guy, the ProArt 5090. This has been long anticipated for people to say, hey, you had the 5070 Ti, 5080, but can you do a 5090? This was a really big challenge for us, R&D wise, because it's just so much more thermal dissipation, and to be able to do it in 2.5 slot. But you can see massive fans, 115 millimeter base fans. You can go ahead and hold it. It's a beefy boy.
It's dense.
Massive.
I like the connector orientation too, because if you are stacking them, having that traditional
as opposed to kind of that drop down design,
makes it much easier to route the cables.
Yeah, you still have that beautiful, of course, black heatsink design, dual venting, special customized compact PCB based profile, and this actually GPU, one of the few on the market that actually is using liquid metal for the GPU. All of our other graphics cards use a very premium phase change thermal pad, but here we wanted to maximize every degree of thermal performance, so we decided to go with liquid metal. And you'll also notice that in the ProArt for this series, you also have this nice soft wood grain finish. Just adds a little bit of an organic kind of vibe to something that is very technical and metal, but it gives you, again, a little bit more distinguished design silhouette. And I think,
and you have the quiet switch on it too.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, by default, the tuning is already really nice. But if you want a fast and easy option to be able to go ahead and toggle it into a quiet mode, you can. And I know you were saying, do we have something you can see it in? We actually do have a ProArt based system right here. And so this is inside of our ProArt PA401, which is actually a compact mid tower. It's a very small ATX system. So it shows you can have a super high-end performance system, but in a small package. So 240 millimeter ProArt cooler. Then here we've got, of course, a ProArt motherboard, and then the ProArt 5090. And then, of course, it comes with those big 160 millimeter fans, rear 140 millimeter fan. Great airflow, but in this really nice compact package, right?
Yeah, that's super clean. And this still has this new motherboard still has the 64 megabytes of BIOS memory on it.
This one would have the 64 megabytes because it'll be a new motherboard design. This one's actually from our prior generation.
Got it.
So even though this is actually a higher end chipset model, the X870, the Z890 don't actually have that. But that's the nature of the beast sometimes.
How the shift with the
yeah,
product stacks.
exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, our next generation refresh, we would put in the 64 megabytes, right?
That's a solid click.
Yep.
Too.
Yeah, it feels
it's a nice. It's like shutting a car door.
Correct. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we even put on there's ProArt models where you actually have a locking mechanism so that you can actually feel really confident. Like, hey,
yeah.
So now
it's locked.
Exactly. You don't wear a
Child safety lock.
Yep. It's the same thing. Actually, we're here even for the fans. There's actually a lock here for the power button. So now I can't turn off the system.
Yeah.
And we did that because there was professional creators that would tell us, like, sometimes they have a kid or there's cats or something.
Right.
Somebody comes in and they hit the power button and it's like, the whole system has been shut off or restarted or something like that. But now I can just go back. Actually, probably for this demo, I should probably leave it in lock mode.
Right.
Yep.
Now, I remember like the old Xbox when they had the capacitive touch on the front. It was always at the right height for my dog's nose. And
and he would just bump
around. It's worse than like Xbox turn off with the Kinects, it would just turn off mid-game. But
so one little one, this is just a soft plug for you guys on the ProArt ecosystem.
Yeah.
We will be introducing an entry ProArt series monitor. We've had quite a number of high-end ProArt based monitors that have already come to market, but normally their price point have been around $1,900 to $3,000. So this is the first time we're introducing one in our C series. This will be underneath $1,000, where you can have a 4K high quality base panel, 120 hertz, four-way ergonomics, good expansive I/O, factory calibration. And like I said, under that aggressive price point, it'll be a great option for creators to be able to get into OLED, but without going into the much more expensive strategy of our premium OLED-based displays.
Yeah, so it's true 10-bit color depth, and it
Correct.
has the 99% DCI P3 color.
Correct. And our factory calibration software suite is really best in class. You're also going to get really nice things like all ProArt displays have front-mounted kind of controls because we can use this as a tool, as a control device. But also for those of you that might not even be on the Windows side, Mac users, we do want to reinforce all of our new ProArt products have display widget center software control in Windows and in OS X. And there's also a matching what's called M3 profile mode, which means that you can automatically match it to like your MacBook or your
the color
exactly
the same
because
color calibration.
Apple use their actually technically they use their own color profile. It's called P3. It's not the same as the industry standard.
I found that out the hard way because I'll edit on the Mac sometimes, especially on the go, and then I go back on my home computer
and it's different.
Which is and as much as I try calibrating them well, I'm like, shoot, which one am I calibrating?
The color spaces are different.
Yeah.
So we actually have a dedicated mode in there that you can just click a button and then it will automatically match the profile to that Mac ecosystem. So
that's super cool.
While we're talking a lot about PC, we just want to let those Mac users out there know, hey, we're 100% supporting you to be able to have a great experience in your Mac OS ecosystem.
You can have fun too, Mac users.
Yes, you can have fun too. So I think going from displays, maybe take a look at some ROG gaming displays.
Yeah, let's go to the juicy high refresh rate stuff. So going kind of the opposite direction of ProArt, we have this new monitor, which is definitely not understated. There's some bright RGB on the stand, and I noticed the back is insane.
It's a translucent design. It's a brand new translucent design. Keep in mind that, of course, if you don't like the sliding design, you can entirely disable it, so you have an option to turn that off.
And the mount still pops off if you want to use an arm.
Exactly. But the really cool thing here is that this is going to be a pure RGB Stripe subpixel structure. So traditionally, you don't have this on an OLED display. And where this has really impacted OLED displays is in text clarity.
Yeah, the fringing.
So, I'd say historically, if we talked about like an A or B or C level, OLEDs could be up to about a B, maybe B plus level for text sharpness, but LCDs always offered a sharper and clearer experience.
Right.
This now being that pure RGB really allows it to match, I'd say, the quality and experience of an LCD, but on an OLED panel. From the spec-wise, also this being 4K at 27 inches, it's a really nice sharp PPI, which just looks great. So this is 4K 240, but it also brings a really interesting feature where it'll be FHD toggle to 480 hertz.
Right.
And pro tip, it's not on the spec card. I'm giving it to you guys for the tour. There's actually kind of like a special Easter egg mode where if you run our aspect ratio mode, which would be at 24.5, you can also run that at 1440p and 240 hertz.
Okay.
So you actually almost have like three different modes that you could run. 4K 240, that aspect ratio of 24.5 at 1440p 240, or the FHD at 480.
Right.
Now, one also note that you won't see in this display, just because it's an engineering sample, the final version will have our true black gloss coating. So if you really want that hyper clarity, that really nice bold dynamic contrast, then this will be coming with that true gloss black coating. And then you also get 90-watt USB-C power delivery, the Neo proximity sensor, which detects you and turns off your monitor.
I've been using that with the monitors we're testing right now. So teaser, I actually have some ASUS OLED monitor coverage coming as well, because we're looking at the 1440p at a higher refresh rate and the 4K at 240. So I've been starting to get used to that OLED care, and I noticed you can change the distance, you can change like the sensitivity and how fast it would turn off.
Yeah, it's not just a basic sensor. So we actually have a time of flight sensor. So it's actually 3D based. Yeah. And you can go in and adjust it almost down to the millimeter to where, hey, if I move away, maybe there's a delivery or I want to go make a sandwich or something, it'll automatically shut off the panel. But the nice thing about that is that it doesn't actually sometimes mess up your system like sleep or hibernation would. It just turns off the panel, but then when you come back on, it just pops back on.
And I've been validating that because my work laptop hates any monitor change, but I set a more aggressive screen care policy on the 1440p, and my 4K is running much longer. So I'll leave and come back, the left monitor's off, and the second I sit down, it's instantly on, and the other one doesn't react. It's just static image, and I can just plug and go. So that's been really sweet.
Yeah, we have a full OSD control software suite that allow you to go ahead and customize all of the elements inside of the OS environment. So if you want to be able to adjust brightness or contrast, or actually have profiles based on individual applications. So like me, I open up.
No way.
Yeah, I open up my web browser. I'll open it up in sRGB mode. But then when I open up Forza, I might want to be in racing mode. And then when I have Call of Duty, I might want to be in FPS mode. But
so, will that also change refresh rate, or is that strictly
not yet?
Color profiles?
That's a plan. It's just color profiles.
Okay.
But our long-term vision is we want to be able to even have things like aspect ratios, or actually even resolutions or refresh rates that can all be auto-hooked in. But we've laid the foundation, at least with the color profiles, because definitely color profiles can be quite different. You might not want to be in a really saturated mode when you're just looking at maybe pictures or
the racing
your web
mode
browsing.
versus,
Exactly. So you can go in and you can customize those elements. But let's go and check out some other displays.
Okay, so we've been looking a lot at OLEDs, and now this is a shift. And we talked about this in the past because OLED's kind of like the hype piece, a lot of people are talking about it. It doesn't mean LCD's dead or it's not going to be for everybody. So explain this monitor, because the resolution is pretty insane.
Yeah, so a lot of the focus is at 1440p and even 4K, but this is actually a 5K based panel. So for 5K, generally the biggest audience actually are going to be generally creators, as well as also even Mac users, because with 5K and 6K resolutions, those are Retina resolutions. If you've ever used actually a display on a Mac that is actually below Retina, you'll sometimes notice that the actual pixel scaling is not perfect. So if you want that perfect pixel scaling, this can be an advantage. Now, we had already offered a 5K display, but only at 60 hertz. This is pretty crazy because this is 5K at 180 hertz. Now, of course, that's going to be pretty challenging to play in terms of most games. You can, of course, drop down to this to 4K and be able to use that similar refresh rate. Or you might be maybe more casual games, maybe stuff like Overwatch or Fortnite, Forza, where you could be able to play at higher resolutions and higher refresh rates. But the really cool option is actually there's a toggle mode on this unit where it'll be able to shift into 1440p at 330 hertz, which is where I think you would enjoy the majority of your gaming experience. So think about maybe 5K more for the benefit of desktop fluid experience. Being able to have nice, super sharp imagery, editing, looking at your normal desktop photos, videos. And then when I want to game, I'm going to jump into that QHD 1440p at 330 hertz.
And just in case it's not obvious, this is a 27-inch, so 5K at a 27-inch.
The pixel density is absolutely awesome. Absurd. Yeah, it's super sharp, super clear. This will be kind of gold standard text clarity if you really are a pixel peeper and you want that super sharp display. It's going to be a great option. Plus, I also love that this uses our compact base design. Really nice, refined and minimal. And you also still have USB-C here on this unit. Not ultra high power delivery, only 15 watts, but still nice to be able to top off a lot of basic devices, your phones, tablets, things along those lines. And you can also receive a DP input signal. So if you wanted to connect like a device and then import that in, you can do that. And there is picture in picture and picture by picture support.
Nice. So, and it still has 97%, 97% DCI P3.
Yeah, so this is a wide gamut display. So you still get great factory colors, and all ROG displays, any ROG display that we talk about, all have factory calibration direct from our facility. You can actually even access the calibration report built into the monitor. You can go into an OSD menu and you can actually see the calibration report that we've run for your display.
And does this telescopes up and down, correct?
Yep, this is actually,
does it also spin?
Four-way.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So for the 5K, for you hackers out there that want, you know, all the lines of code,
all
you
the
can
lines
have a
of code.
couple of these flip vertically and
Exactly.
not have any eye strain or anything like that.
There's also a little cool feature that often gets overlooked, but there's a threaded mount behind this monitor on this base. So if you actually want to be able to attach a microphone, a light, or a camera, then you can do that actually on the threaded mount, as opposed to having to go buy like another accessory.
Yeah, it's much cleaner that way.
Yeah, pro tip, that is actually on all ROG monitors. So any monitor that we talk about ROG, including the ones you have that little threaded mount design at the top of the base.
Awesome.
Yep. So let's go from 5K to ultra wide.
Okay, so ultra wides. I've been starting to dabble with these a little bit for my racing sim primarily, but this is new.
Correct. So we had a previous 34-inch, but this is brand new just for CES. It's our first update to 34 in quite a bit of time. The cool thing about this is actually going to be a QD OLED panel, but like the W OLED panel that we talked about is also going to be pure RGB. So the same benefit that we talked about is that improved luminance in terms of the color saturation, but also the improved text clarity is going to be on here. So this is 3440 by 1440. I think that's a great resolution to be able to drive, but we're now going to go up to 360 hertz. Our prior generation was a 240 hertz model.
That's amazing.
But here you get 3440 by 1440, 360 with that pure RGB. But the other really cool part about this is actually going to be the coating that we have on this panel. So normally with QD OLED, you can get a little bit of a challenge with ambient light handling, where if light hits the panel, it takes on a little bit of like a color shift where it'll go from like purple, and you'll have it be almost a little bit gray where you'll use some of the black. With this new coating, that actually the contrast perception is notably improved, and that's almost mitigated, but also it's more durable. So a lot of QD OLED owners would find out over time that they would clean the panel and that they would get micro abrasions or scuffs. And that's because the QD OLED does not have an actual polarizer. It didn't have actually like a layer to protect it.
That's why you lose a little bit of that contrast.
But with this actually coating in place, it's now 2.5 times more resilient. So you really don't have to worry that now I can go ahead and I can just take my cloth, I can wipe it, and I don't have to worry about these kind of micro abrasions that are going to occur on the display.
Yeah, pro tip, stick to microfibers and don't use rubbing alcohol.
Yep. And if you really want the nice stuff, look for Toray microfiber. It's the gold standard from Japan. It has a really ultra tight weave to it. It's the best stuff that you can get. There's a lot of imitation grade, but that is like actually Toray, if you don't know, is the inventor of microfiber.
Interesting. So I don't have to buy the Apple cleaning cloth?
Yes, exactly. One other thing that's really cool here is that this unit has an insane 8 levels of picture-in-picture by control support. So you can go top, bottom, adjacent to the side left, adjacent to the side right. So 8 different levels of picture-in-picture input control, which I think is great for like an ultra-wide setup. This, of course, will also have USB power delivery up to 96 watts. And another really cool benefit of this unit in terms of its design, outside of the picture-in-picture by controls, is the aspect ratio modes. So if you want to be able to run kind of
at the hardware level.
Yeah, exactly. You want to go to maybe like a 27-inch focus field of view, because not all games support ultra-wide aspect ratio support. But you don't want to have like weird HUD spacing or stuff like that. You can go in and you can use our aspect ratio.
All through the built-in. So that's huge, because a lot of people, they like the ultra wide for computer or PC gaming.
Correct.
But they'll still have a PlayStation connected to it. And being able to toggle that hardware-based aspect control so the PS users out there can actually have a normal aspect ratio instead of stretching it out is great.
Exactly. So this is going to be a really great option. And a little inside tip again for you guys watching this one. This won't be coming out this month. But we will release an XG version, which will have everything that we've talked about. And the main difference will be a drop down to 280 hertz, which is still, I think, fantastic. Instead of this tripod base, you're going to get
compact stand.
You get the compact.
That's a pretty slick option. Yeah.
And it won't have the USB-C 96 watt power delivery, but it'll be a bit cheaper. For me, I think for a lot of gamers,
that's going to be a good
that is still going to be a fantastic option and maybe the better buy, unless you kind of want every single spec and the 360, the USB PD, and the more premium base. So just watch out. We will have the XG34 versus the PG32.
That's a sweet option, because like, you know, even right now I have the fastest CPU and I'm using a 5090, and at this exact resolution for the games I play, I'm not pumping more than 240 frames a second, because I still like the fidelity and the better graphics. You know, beyond 240, I'm pretty happy. You know, so that's
I totally agree. I think it's like I said, it's a great middle ground to be able to get all the cool new technologies, but save yourself a little bit of money that you can put into storage or maybe a memory kit or you know, whatever else it might be, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And quick question on the picture-in-picture mode. So a lot of monitors, it's kind of two different ways to do it. There's it combining two physical inputs to support the picture-in-picture. Is there any internal video routing where it is virtually splitting like a DisplayPort connection? So
No,
the
yeah,
computer sees two.
so you will use two physical inputs.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be maybe the USB-C and then the HDMI, or the HDMI and the DP ports. Yes.
Yeah, I always wonder, you know, if you have one computer and you want Discord to have a fixed window and then you still have that, you'll have that second, probably the USB connection for something like that, so you can toggle it on and off.
Exactly.
Sweet.
Exactly. Yep.
Good stuff. So,
and then
I noticed this too. Yeah, this is quite different.
Yeah, so the last update that we have here is going to be for the 32-inch form factor. So we had already released this guy, which is the PG32UCDM. This has kind of become the benchmark for a lot of guys as far as a 4K, 240 hertz, 32-inch monitor. Now here at CES, we're announcing this guy, which is going to be the same model name, but Gen 3.
Yep.
So there's going to be 5 big key changes that you're going to have here. The first one is this one has the black shield film technology. This one doesn't have the black shield film technology. This one has the Neo proximity sensor. This one didn't have the Neo proximity sensor. Partly that was also because that was before we even released the technology.
Right, that's what we were talking about earlier. You know, it's a cadence
Exactly,
thing.
it's a
Sometimes
cadence.
it flip-flops on new tech.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we have the Neo proximity sensor, but there's also something that's kind of hard to technically see, but the EL OLED material, the actual sub-material itself, is actually of a newer generation on this panel compared to this panel. So even though they're technically the same monitor, the material is actually slightly different. The benefit that is going to give you is that the luminance performance, especially in the middle of the luminance range, is actually brighter and better on this monitor.
So you get a little better saturation too at high luminance?
You're gonna, exactly.
Okay.
I would say peak luminance is going to be pretty close, but real world, I'd say actually game and video content, you'll actually notice a little bit more. And that's actually reflected by the fact that we were able to enable HDR True Black 500 on this monitor. Well, this one is actually HDR True Black 400 on this display, right? There's also a benefit of that new material. There's something that is called VRR flicker, which can present itself more on an OLED display that some users are very sensitive and some users don't get it at all.
I find that myself and my son are a little sensitive to that because you can kind of get headaches or eye strain without even realizing it. And that was actually what I was thinking about when we were looking at the WOLEDs as opposed to the QD.
So we are actually the only vendor that currently has technology to mitigate this. We call this OLED anti-flicker. And this version, we updated it after the fact with anti-flicker 1.0, but this one, we actually now have a more advanced version called anti-flicker 2.0.
Right.
So again, it doesn't 100% perfectly eliminate it, but again, it does allow for some compensation options that can help to reduce the vibrancy of how the flicker occurs. So
that's such an understated feature to have because, you know, you get a monitor, everyone can shop really good color saturation, good refresh rates and all that. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm working my day job 8 hours. Later, I want to go on Arc Raiders and talk crap online. I don't want to have a headache. And I find that some QD OLEDs really introduce that much quicker.
Correct. And that's also an area, to be honest, why LCD still has a viable pathway is that something like the new Pulsar tech, which offers outstanding pixel response and motion clarity, good brightness, actually better brightness than a standard SDR OLED monitor, but it doesn't have any of those flicker-based issues. So you still want to look at what technology might really work best for you and your use case. The last point that I would make here, it's hard to see, but is the AC adapter. This one had an integrated AC, excuse me, an external AC adapter, and this one moves to a fully integrated AC adapter. So
much nicer for people like me. I switch monitors sometimes, so it's nice to have just a
so you can plug in the cable,
thing,
and you're good to go. So overall, 5 changes that actually I think are pretty welcome.
This is cooler too.
It should be maybe a smidge, not too much, but there is a little bit of a difference again in that EL panel material between the two. Hopefully we can switch it to you guys for some B-roll, but we had actually 2 black images where you actually can notably see the difference between
for that pole.
That contrast perception. So that's rounds out our updates for OLED monitors, at least for right now. Rest assured, we're going to have more that's coming later.
As is tech with always coming out with new stuff.
We will have also in January, we're not showing it off, but launching in January will be finally the 1440p tandem 540 hertz display, and then also its baby brother, which will be a WOLED tandem 280 hertz space offering. And those both
more entry level too at that
later this month. And pricing on that 280 for me is fantastic. That's a $599 display.
That's killer
for tandem. right? Along with that 280 hertz refresh rate, the Neo proximity sensor, adjustable HDR, I think that's really hard to beat.
No, that's a sweet spot because you know, a lot of people like the OLED, but you don't need every single bell and whistle or that extreme refresh rate that a 5080 is not going to push, and that's a high-end card.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. So that card will be, that monitor will be coming out mid to late this month. And if you really, for some reason, don't want tandem, we will also have an alternative QD OLED 280 hertz option as well, and that should also, I think, be about the same price, so like $599. So, yeah, we're kind of unique. We're the only vendor right now that does both QD OLED and WOLED solutions, which is why we have a very big lineup. But hopefully, it just gives you guys more choice to figure out, you know, what's the best option for you.
Now, do you have, we'll close on this, I guess, because there's a lot of models. Even us just talking today, we covered a lot of models. On your site, searching for technologies, do you have any kind of guides or, you know, where people can help narrow down what they're looking for spec, or is it kind of just browse the list?
So I definitely would recommend one is, we do have an actual primary like OLED landing page, which will talk about a lot of the holistic technologies that we have on all of our displays. So things like OLED Care. OLED Care is on every single display, so you don't have to worry about going like, oh, this one doesn't have it, or this one does have it, or adjustable HDR, every single one has it, right? And that will offer some comparisons, so we help to explain the difference. Like some WOLED is anti-reflective versus some other monitors are semi-gloss, and then some other ones are fully gloss. So we do have that. You can go to our landing page. You can also go up to our RG website, rg.asus.com, our general blog site, and our Edge Up website, where we dive into kind of covering it from a more general kind of hands-on vibe versus just kind of like the speeds and feeds that you might find on a product page.
Cool. And I'll put links in the description below for all of those, because at the end of the day, I think having the resources to know and really narrow down to like your top 2 or 3 of what you're looking for, kind of seeing what models make sense makes all the difference to make sure you get the right one. So JJ, thanks so much for your time and showing me all this new stuff. Super excited for 26.
And I'll be watching out of those comments. Let me know what your guys' maybe favorite product was. And if we didn't do something and you'd like to see it, let us know. What would you like to see from us maybe at next CES or maybe later in 2026?
And then we'll hold them to it and we'll interview again. I'll say, hey, JJ2000 from YouTube was asking for this. Did it show up? Where is it? So we'll hold you to it. But
sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.